funding for an Obama presidential library. A harsh national spotlight shines on Chicago again, following a violent Easter weekend, some 40 shot, including 9 killed.
A community, our neighborhoods that make up the city, cannot live by a code of silence. They have to live by a moral code. When some people go, well, it's the weather. It's whether you have values.
Mayor Emanuel promises. Joining us are Charles Thomas of ABC 7 News, Bruce Dold, editorial page editor of the Chicago Tribune, Maudlin Hedgerika of the Chicago Sun-Times, and Bob Vorwald of WGN Sports. First tonight, rampant shootings. The Chi-Raq nickname back in play after another warm weekend of staggering gun violence. A plastic bag ban imminent for chain stores including Jewel, Target, and Walmart. Well, the big story this entire week has been the terrible Easter weekend shootings and the continued violence. And Charles Thomas, are you satisfied when the mayor gets out there and says it's not a question of whether, it's a question of values?
Of whether you have values. Well,
and when McCarthy says that even though it's terrible, we're still making strides to stem violence?
It's a question of whether or not you have a job and some economic hope. And a lot of people don't have that, and that's what's causing, that's at the root of all of this violence. There is no economic development, so to speak, on the south and west sides of the city. It's all downtown, and that's why you have the violence on the south and west sides of the city, because people are hopeless. They're feeling hopeless, particularly the young people, people who don't have any prospects of getting a job because there's nothing there, no places there for them to work.
Maudlin, do you think if the city would spend some of the money they're spending on police, on creating jobs for young people, that would make a difference?
I think that's absolutely true. You know, when the mayor stands up yet again and says, oh, you know, we're doing everything we can, it's values. Parents, you need to help me. You need to help solve this problem. What I want to know is, what has New York found? Why are people in New York why do they have better values? Why does New York's crime rate just make Chicago look ridiculous? I don't understand. Can you say that parents there have less values? The bottom line is there was a recent study that showed 92% of African American young black males in this city are unemployed. When you have that type of unemployment, that lack of economic development, is it any wonder that this is happening?
But I'm sure there's high unemployment among blacks in New York as well. So what do you think the difference is?
You can point to a lot of things. Part of it, I do think, is if you do have neighborhoods in Chicago with 30, 40, 50% unemployment, and as Maudlin says, 95%. If you're a high school dropout, you're probably not working here, and you probably don't have many options. But you know, we used to think of the violence as business, you know, gang-related, drug-related. A lot of it now isn't. It's you know, you looked at me the wrong way. I got a gun. I'm gonna shoot you.
So I don't have anything else to do.
I don't dismiss the question of values. If I would take your life that just to think you looked at me the wrong way, I'm gonna shoot you. That does point to values a little bit. New York, part of it is in New York. The cops got more in your face. Now, there's some drawback
they also
on
have
that.
a little stronger gun laws in New York.
They do, yeah, that's part of it. And I also think they don't have the neighborhoods with broad poverty like we do now. Manhattan is a very safe area. That's a large part of the city. And, man, you can walk around Manhattan, partly because there's people there all the time, but it's safe.
Bob Vorwald, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
If you were one of these people who saw a gang shooting and knew who did it, would you tell the police about it, or would you honor the so-called code of violence?
You know, it's very far removed from the experience that any of us certainly have, and it's so hard to imagine any aspirational goals or any way to get out. This cycle continues to go and go and go, and nothing is changing. It's just, you know, the other part about it is it feels like an epidemic. That seemed like a punch in the gut for the entire city this weekend when that news came out, which affects all of us too, because the way we're viewed around the country and around the world takes a shot when all these shootings happen.
So what is the solution immediately? Let's assume that we can't get those jobs immediately, and we have no money for them. And let's assume that the code of silence keeps going. Do you expect any different results?
Do you want more aggressive street policing? That's a very controversial thing. but it can be effective. And I think New York saw it was effective. Do you want tougher gun laws? You can do that in the state, but look at last summer where we were going through discussing all this again, and the legislature basically did nothing on guns. So the city is crying, saying, you've got gun running from Tennessee, from Indiana. It's so easy to bring guns in here. We got a lot of guns.
We definitely have a gun issue, and the state has just been at the mercy of these gun laws for years, and New York has been able to combat that with tougher laws. But at the same time, it's not just the gun laws. It's, I don't know, we've got to come up with something. It's not, we can't just say it's values, we can't just say it's the weather. It's got to be something more, and we got to start with gun laws.
If you go to the back rooms in City Hall, a lot of people are saying, well, they're kind of picking on Chicago. You know, they've got their eye on us, and every time we have a violent weekend, you know, we're the worst place in the world, and we're really not. And all of the good things about the city get obscured because of this kind of national coverage.
Well, I mean, going back to what they're saying about guns, I mean, you probably have more guns per capita in a place like Downers Grove or Naperville than you have in the city of Chicago. Because people don't have guns here. The gang members have them, but people aren't allowed to have guns in the city.
So as we sit here, I just would like to take a quick poll. Are you optimistic that we're going to make any progress in the immediate future in this gang problem?
It seems like we keep shuffling pieces on the chessboard, but are we playing a whole new game? And you can see certainly the frustration in the administration's eyes when they talk to us.
Optimistic or not?
Not necessarily, no.
Well, we have made progress. I mean, you know, the Chicago Magazine did some really great reporting. It raises some questions about the numbers. But homicide rates in Chicago have come down from their historic highs, and even in recent years. So I don't think you can say there hasn't been progress.
What about shooting rates?
Shooting rates have come down too, but it's all relative. You compare it to New York to Los Angeles, we're not doing very well at all. But I don't think you can say there hasn't been any progress.
The shootings, don't they account, if it's multiple people, just as one shooting?
That was one way they've suppressed the numbers.
I think we're going to have the exact same type of summer this summer that we had last year and the year before, and that nothing is going to change. There needs to be wholesale. There just needs to be a wholesale change, and it's got to start with the gun laws. It's got to start with the gun laws.
I think it's going to have to start with a real concerted effort to find jobs, to spread the wealth, so to speak, in this city, find a way to economically develop.
What about the code of silence? Where does that come in?
No, there's a code. The cops have a code of silence too. I mean,
okay. Let's move on to another city issue: plastic bag ban.